Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. I'm Miss Charline, and we are on Dash Talk Radio. Hi, Matthew.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you, darling?
I'm doing okay.
Well, we have in our studio today a lovely lady that I have been anticipating since I met you, getting you in to do a show. Hi, Taryn Rose.
Hello, Charline.
Hello, Miss
I'm
Taryn.
so excited to be here.
Oh, my goodness. Taryn is an orthopedic surgeon, and she makes beautiful, sexy stilettos for women that won't throw our backs out. They're comfortable to wear. So you know she was right on my radar. So Taryn, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. This is your first time on our show. So could you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So you and I met at a USC entrepreneurial event because I went to USC School of Medicine.
Yes.
Let's go Trojans.
Yes.
Fight on. And I finished at USC, but I stayed on and became an orthopedic surgeon there in the residency program. So I practiced at LA County USC for many years.
Were you able to write off some of that education in doing that?
Matthew, stay focused.
SC is expensive.
I know it is.
and you know, it's even relative to what it is now. I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's really inexpensive
Because it's even more expensive
yes,
now.
it's ridiculous now. I looked at and I paid more for my kids' tuition in primary school, in private school, than I did for USC med school. That's how crazy it's gotten.
Wow.
And I hate to admit it, but this Friday is our 25th year reunion for USC. Yeah,
Woo-woo.
so
Shout out to all the
I know,
alumni.
right?
I'm not really that old. I went to school at 14, so
Okay. That makes sense.
yeah. But anyway, so while I was a resident, I loved fashion, and I remember, this was before e-commerce, so dialing every Nordstrom for that certain booty that I had to have, right? Or the nurses would come up to me and say, hey, I'm going to this event this weekend. What do you think I should wear? I just became like this fashion maven. Right. And I think the height of my fashion plus doctor moment was when I actually put a cast on someone in a full ball gown, because I was on my way to an event.
Wow.
Yeah. So with that, I was running around the hospital in heels, and it was not comfortable. I remember trying to put pads in and changing straps and just trying to hack my shoes, right? And it just wasn't great. So that gave me the seed of an idea of, hey, if shoes were made correctly in the first place, based on certain principles, and also balanced with beauty, there would be a market. And I said, I'm not the only woman in this situation.
Hello.
So as part of my senior project, I did a research study on diabetic footwear. So Nike actually sponsored the study and helped me, and we ended up, working with the Nike lab. And in that study, what I did was redesign the diabetic shoe, because studies have shown that the incidence of amputation increased because diabetics did not want to wear the ugly diabetic shoes. Those Frankenstein shoes?
Right.
Yes, I definitely feel you. It's like dun 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 when they're walking down the street.
Right.
Yes. So with that in mind, we redesigned the shoes so that they were more attractive, and lo and behold, the compliance rate went up, the amputation rate went down, and so sometimes affecting change can be as simple as focusing on the right design for people.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, as you said, you want to be comfortable and not be in pain, right?
Exactly.
No one is expecting high heels to feel like
tennis shoes,
sneakers, but
right.
at the same time, let's not have pain.
Exactly.
Right? And that's about focusing on design with form and function. So I finished and took my boards, and literally when I was filling out my job applications, I had like black screens in front of my eyes because I felt like if I went down this path, it was almost like a death. Like I was killing a part of myself that was very passionate about fashion.
Right.
Although the decision to actually take the jump took about 6 months.
Okay.
I did a lot of walking along the ocean and meditating on what it would be like and how could I possibly, give up all this education and training. And at the end, I just decided, you know what? I could always go back.
That's right.
So, being an orthopedic surgeon as a plan B isn't a bad plan
It's not
B.
a bad plan B at all.
Yeah, that's a pretty good plan B.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I actually feared regret more than failure. That's what it came down to. I just said, I don't want to look back at 50 and say, oh, I wish I'd done that
Right.
when it was too late.
Exactly.
So I took the leap of faith, and how I got into shoes is actually kind of funny because with my sense of fashion, of course, I did a lot of retail therapy.
Yes.
So I had a great salesperson. She and I are still friends to this day. She worked at Barney's, and she always talked about a couple of Italian guys that would come and visit every summer. So I asked her, I said, do you think these guys know anyone in the shoe industry? I mean, it's kind of really silly if you think about it. It's like if you were an American, someone saying, do you know anyone that has a McDonald's franchise?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just my luck would be, one of those guys owned a shoe factory and the other one owned a tannery.
Oh,
Wow.
So I was hooked up, and they were super nice guys. And they also had a friend named Enrico Cuini, who was an architect and general inventor designer, who 15 years later, this is a beautiful story, we're now engaged.
Oh, wow.
But we were separate for 15 years.
Really?
Yeah. We
Shout out
didn't
to
have.
Enrico.
Okay.
Hey, Enrico.
He had perseverance.
Yes. He said that he always thought that my vision was great. There was always an attraction, but I was married at the time.
Okay. So he
Yeah.
waited.
He probably said,
waited.
I'm going to make you some shoes.
And actually, that's exactly what he did.
See, he's a smart man.
17 years later,
I knew it.
he came to me with a new invention that literally I saw it on my kitchen table, and in 2 seconds, I said, oh my God, I'm going back to the shoe industry because I just have to. This is the next revolution.
Wow.
I saw it in a flash. So we can talk more about that.
Right, because I want to do it in order of time, right?
Yeah.
So now you were an orthopedic surgeon and very successful. I don't want you to leave that part out. A very successful orthopedic surgeon. And you were walking on the beach in Palos Verdes.
Yes.
I don't want you to leave that out. So that meant you were very successful if you could live there, right? And so you decided to make this jump and go from being safe as an orthopedic surgeon, knowing what your income was going to be, knowing what your audience was going to be, all of that, your focus, your colleagues, but you had this driving passion for beautiful shoes and fashion,
Right.
And I remember when you spoke at USC, you said, in my mind, I thought, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, why can't I have beautiful, sexy shoes? Why do I have to wear a shoe that's not as attractive when it's available? It could be available, right?
Right.
And so that walk on the beach is what I want to come back to as you transition between your job as a doctor and becoming really the guru of beautiful shoes for women that we can appreciate.
Yes.
So we're going to come back and talk about that. So this is Miss Charline. This is Lunch with the Finance Bunch. And we're on Dash Talk Radio. And we're talking to Ms. Taryn Rose, about beautiful shoes that are good for our feet. I'm your host, Miss Charline, with Lunch with the Finance Bunch on Dash Talk Radio, and we're in the studio with Taryn Rose, and we're talking about sexy, beautiful shoes.
Ladies, get your credit cards ready. We're doing a
Yes.
whole lot of swiping with Taryn.
Yes, because that's where we're heading, because I went to one of her trunk parties, just so you know, and those shoes are hot, sexy, beautiful, boots, shoes, everything. But I don't want to lose my place because I got excited for a moment.
And don't worry about the price.
No, because
you only
you know
live
what?
once. Swipe
Not
away.
only
Just
that-
close your eyes and swipe.
Not only that, they're practical. They make sense.
And they're comfortable.
Well, speaking of price, it's about an investment, right?
Exactly.
Right.
You want to invest in yourself.
See, Char, I invest in myself all the time because I buy a lot of shoes. So go ahead. You're just
You're on the
plugging me in
same
right
page
now.
with him, yes.
We're kindred spirits right here.
right. I would, I'll wear a less expensive piece of clothing,
Yes.
but always invest in a great pair of shoes.
That's
Do you
right.
hear that, Charlene?
I do.
Invest in your shoes.
I know. I do invest in my shoes. I actually love shoes. What I've done, though, is I've started to take comfort over extreme beauty,
Sure.
and now I don't have to. So that's really why I'm
Right.
completely excited. I don't have to give up beautiful shoes for comfort because I can have them both now, Matthew.
That's fine. So you won't be wearing a pair of Christian Louboutins anytime soon.
No way. I'm not into pain at all. I'm into Taryn Rose. So we were walking on the beach, Matthew, with Taryn, and she had this brainchild idea to start her own line of shoes. Now, did you want to start a complete line of shoes? Had you thought that far into it?
Yes, I knew that I wanted to be a full lifestyle collection.
Okay.
What I didn't know was what it was going to actually take.
Okay.
So luckily, I met some really great people in the industry that helped me. So I have to say that I was quite lucky. But I also wasn't going to take no for an answer. So eventually I would have found my luck. And that's what I'd like to give as advice to people is that, yes, you need a certain element of serendipity and luck, but if you keep looking for it, it will come.
Right, because you actually went to Italy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And to pursue this passion of yours to create shoes. And what kind of reaction did you get when you talked about, I want to create beautiful shoes for women that are comfortable?
Well, they thought I was crazy. Okay. They said, well, women don't care about comfort. All they want to do is look beautiful and sexy. What are you doing?
That is
and,
not true.
When I told them all of the technical aspects I wanted in the shoe, they just thought, oh my God, she is crazy. This was back in the day when they still had those old fax machines with the rolls.
Yes.
And they would joke that every time I sent through a fax, the roll would go all the way down out in the streets because I was so detailed in my specifications.
Wow. Now, when you had that first prototype for your shoe, after you went through all of that, because you said it took about a 6-month process for you to actually decide to just jump out and do it,
Yes.
right? And then you went to Italy and met with some opposition, like women don't care about that or whatever, and you just kind of kept going. And then how did that feel when you had that first prototype for your shoe collection?
Well, I had several prototypes, and it felt really great. And then I was like, well, how do I sell these now?
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think that's a common thing for entrepreneurs is
Yes.
that they come up with a product idea and they fall in love with the idea and the product, and then they realize, oh my gosh, how am I going to sell this? And selling is so important. Distribution
Exactly.
is so
100%.
important. And now as a second-time entrepreneur, I would advise everyone that get your distribution channel down first,
Yes.
and then deal with the product. And luckily, because of my experience in the industry, I knew that I had, great contacts for distribution.
Right.
But anyway, so I what I did was I went to Neiman Marcus, my other hangout.
Shout out to Neiman Marcus, my former employee.
And went to the shoe department, and I asked my favorite shoe salesperson on the floor, "Who's your favorite rep?" You know,
Right.
And I met with this woman, and she was so kind. She's like, "Honey, you're just starting out. You're not going to be able to afford my salary. So how about if I just give you the list of names, you know, all of her contacts?"
Oh, wow.
And here's, you know, one person that you really need to find, and her name is Sungcho Rothi at Nordstrom. And back in those days, again, it's some element of luck. This could not be repeated today.
Right.
Because the whole buying structure has changed. But back in those days, the buyer was on the selling floor.
That's right.
So I went down to Nordstrom in South Coast Plaza, and I was stalking her. Reading name
Sometimes you have to be
I
a
need to
stalker.
take you to lunch immediately. What do you like to eat?
Right. And but she was lovely. And when I explained to her my concept, she was like, "Of course, why don't you come in with your samples next week?" And I got my first 500 pair order, which then
Wow.
led to some other independents putting in orders. So that was the seed of it all. And then
Your timing was perfect.
Your
Yes,
timing was
yes.
impeccable on both ends. The putting the shoe company together and in the sale of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Timing
And-
was
and-
impeccable on both
Right,
sides of that
right.
coin. So
Yes.
how long did you, so you wound up being distributing to higher end stores.
Yes, at the end I was in all department stores. My biggest account was at Neiman Marcus and Nordstrom, Zappos. I was one of the first brands that sold on Zappos. That was
Oh, nice.
of the designer level. So, you know, I had a great 10 years. It was really hard as far as keeping up with the growth. And you know, God bless Oprah. I was on her show in 2001, and we went from 8 million to 16 million in sales in 1 year.
Wow.
And while that is cause for celebration, it's also cause for trying to pull your hair out,
Right.
you know, trying to
because-
keep up.
Exactly, trying to keep up with the demand,
Yes.
especially
Yes.
with the production and distribution side of things.
Exactly.
So, you know, and financing.
Right.
And you know, since this is a finance show, what I realized towards the end was that I'm basically a finance company because I had to pay my suppliers before my customers
Right.
Right.
would pay me. You know, our average collection dates was actually 62 days, which, you know, is not bad for the industry.
But you still
it's-
have to be in a position to put that money out there.
Exactly. It was all about that
get it.
cash flow.
Yeah, that's.
right.
I mean, even
Yeah.
60 plus days. That's a pretty stressful waiting period up until
Yes.
then.
Yes.
And it can slow down production if you don't have enough money to keep things afloat.
Exactly. And
Right.
and I, you know, would try to put some pressure on my suppliers, my factories, but they can only bear so much. So
Right.
it was a very stressful time. And then the euro started getting really strong, and I used to joke that I would wake up every morning and lose money because
Right.
our industry is such that we sold the shoes about 4 months in advance, so we had to price things
That's right.
in
So you had to
advance.
project what
Yes.
the price would be.
Yes. So then I had to start buying futures, and you know, it was a really stressful time, but I learned a lot. I learned a great deal. And we were covered on Oprah and CNN and the Today Show. I remember one time landing in Milan and getting a phone call from my publicist saying, CNN wants to do a show about you. They're sending a unit right now. And I'm like,
what?
What? So, you know, some really exciting times, and I got to meet First Lady Laura Bush. And that was an interesting event. So I was in Washington, D.C. For a exhibition about Vietnamese refugees, and they were. I was one of the people featured in this entire exhibition as famous Vietnamese Americans.
Right.
And this was at the Smithsonian. So it was really exciting. You know, I walked
Right.
into the Smithsonian, and there I donated the shoes that was signed by Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, wow.
And there's a cardboard size version of me, and I was like, had I known that, I would have had them photoshopped to make me look a little taller. So that was exciting as it is, right?
Right.
But add to that, again, another phone call from the publicist. First Lady Laura Bush would like to meet with you tomorrow, and we need your passport right now to clear security.
Right.
And the credentials of the driver that's going to drive you in. And I'm thinking, oh man, you know, Washington, D.C., there's drivers usually from Uzbekistan. I hate to say it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, how are we ever going to clear? Well, my luck again. My driver for that weekend that was hired was Secret Service.
Oh my. It
For
couldn't be
Reagan.
better. Oh.
So he cleared like a dream. And when we were
Right.
driving in, he knew the ropes, right? And he's like, okay, they're going to make you stop, and you're going to have to walk in at the second gate. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And when they waved us through, he said, who the hell are you?
Right.
You're going right up to
Exactly.
the portico.
You got Secret Service in your back pocket.
Because she's the woman with the shoes. That's
Yeah,
why.
exactly.
Women want beautiful shoes that don't hurt.
Right.
Can somebody grab us a pen and paper so that you can write down some lotto numbers for us? I'm trying to win big, y'all.
And I have to, you know, I have to say, to clarify, both Laura Bush and Oprah always paid for their shoes. They never expected, they insisted on paying. And it just shows the graciousness
That's right.
of who they are. And the First Lady, Laura Bush, was just so lovely. And we were talking about how, you know, it's so awkward when you're walking across grass and you sink in.
feet,
So she
yeah.
wore a lot of my wedges.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's
I would
great.
have had to do a spinoff and been like, Oprah, Miss Bush, the First Lady, these are the official shoes for them. Everybody needs to go and buy these shoes.
Right.
And, you know, the only thing I didn't dare do, because someone said, well, you know, you got to take, I guess there's monogram White House napkins or something in the bathroom.
Oh yeah. I've heard that.
I didn't take any.
Oh, you're
was
so
like,
good. I would have had napkins all throughout my
These
house.
pockets will be full of napkins.
Towels, everything. I probably would have had a White House robe and everything.
So,
This is velvet, by the way.
So, you know, I went to the Oscars. I met Will Smith. I had some great experience. And it was super fun. But I have to admit that after 10 years, I was very burnt out.
Okay.
And especially, I grew organically for the first 7 years. I didn't take on any outside investors. And then I reached 30 million in sales. And they said, you know, I'm here at 30. I think I can go to 100, but I need some outside capital to fuel the growth.
Right.
So I brought on an investor, and it just really changed the whole feel of the company.
Right.
And it wasn't the same. And I was really burnt out. So I was really relieved to be able to sell in 2008. And I didn't know this at the time, but I clearly remember calling up my lawyer because the negotiations had gone on for 6 months. I said, you know, whatever the last 3 points is, just give it to them. I don't care. It's not so important. Just give it to them.
Right.
And let's close this.
Because I'm tired. I'm ready to go home.
Yeah, I'm
done
ready
with this.
to kind of
Move on.
on.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got the wire 2 weeks before the Great Recession started.
Wow.
Had I dragged it on any longer, the deal would have
Completely
crashed.
Completely
fallen
crashed.
through.
Yes.
Wow.
And I actually have met many entrepreneurs, like one of my fellow panelists,
Right.
who that happened. Like
Yes.
they
Crash and burn.
yes,
And had to
yes.
start all over again.
Right. So I count myself so lucky, and you know, I know that you are a financial educator.
Yes.
So you would have slapped me silly because I got the wire, and you know, I did things not for the money. Okay?
Right.
And my banker calls me up. He's like, you know, you can't just leave all these
All that money in your savings
millions
account?
in the account. You got to do something with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah. What do you think I should do? You know, like I was so ignorant on the investment finance side because I was so busy first getting an education, training as a surgeon,
Yes.
then running
Being
my
the
business,
surgeon and then starting a business
and and operating a $40 million business. So I never took the time to educate myself. So I think you're doing a great service.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now, before we break, I want you to, if you're comfortable, tell us how much did you sell that company for?
I sold, well, it went in phases. So it was a total of 20 million. And, but it didn't happen all in one shot.
Right.
Yeah.
20 million in 2 shots, 3 shots, 1 shot. It's all good.
I'm down to be patient for that.
Right. It sounds successful to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to come back in a little while, and Taryn is going to tell us about her new venture, her new company. I'm Miss Charline. This is Lunch with the Finance Bunch, and we're on Dash Talk Radio. And Matthew, we have a kindred spirit in the house.
I know. I'm so happy we're talking about shoes right now. You have no idea.
We'll be back in just one moment. And we're back. This is Miss Charline on Lunch with the Finance Bunch, and we're here on Dash Talk Radio, and we are here with the beautiful, the smart, the talented, the shoe
I mean, we can go on and on.
We can go on and on. Taryn Rose.
You gotta stop talking about him like that.
Taryn Rose.
Taryn, will you tell my mom I'm amazing?
I mean, you
will.
are
I try to
amazing,
tell her every
Matthew.
single day.
But we're talking to Taryn right now. She's
I'll
the
back up.
amazing one in the room today.
You can have all the light and shine right now, Taryn. It's all yours.
He's saying that because he's into shoes also. So
Exactly.
he was.
So I'm like pumping it up. I'm like, do it. Talk more.
Now, Taryn, when we left off, you had just sold your company and you made a profit of $20 million and it was sitting in a bank account somewhere, but we're going to talk about that later. But what
That was a disaster.
What did you do in that transition? Because you went from school
Right.
to medical school to being an orthopedic surgeon, so successful, to starting your own shoe company and really working your way through that and figuring it out and becoming extremely successful at it, to the point of, you know what, I just don't, it's not fun anymore. I don't want to do this right now.
Well, I was burnt out.
Right.
And it wasn't until many years later did I realize that I was a workaholic.
Okay.
And I had hit my sort of rock bottom. And I just physically and mentally just couldn't manage because I was so out of balance.
Right.
Because the thing about workaholism is that you talk yourself into things like, well, I need to work this hard. Like I literally, with each one of my babies, they had to pry the BlackBerry out of my hands. And you know, I had staff and employees. The last baby, I had 3 children while I was building
In that 10-year period?
in this time period.
Wow.
And 2 husbands. So, well, that's for another show.
Okay.
And the last baby, I remembered my VP of sales texted, "Please go have your baby. We're all fine."
Right.
And so, but I realized that it was out of my own sense of insecurity that I had so much to prove to the world, and that working hard was how I wanted to show that. But it was at the sacrifice of a lot of relationships.
Okay.
So therefore, you know, 2 husbands, and
Right.
and I was traveling 200 days out of the year.
Wow.
So my kids were very young, and I didn't get to see them very much. So it was just a reckoning, and I likened that. Basically, selling the business was like if an alcoholic had to sell their bar. So I went
Right.
cold turkey, and here I was faced with a non-compete. My lawyer kept calling saying, "You're on the beach drinking margaritas, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." And so I was a little bit lost. I got divorced. I kind of cleaned up. It was time for me to clean up my personal life.
Right.
I had a lot of fun. Another
Shout out to Fun.
Another show, a woman in her 40s dating a lot of hot young men. That's a whole.
So you had a good time.
Yeah, that's a
partying.
miss.
And we'll
that
be
was
back.
a Miss Taryn. Yeah, that was Miss Taryn with a capital M. And I also read up and hung out with a bunch of techies. I learned a lot about technology, and I'm so happy I did, because really, I started my first company in the late 90s.
Right.
Okay. Things have changed so much. We didn't have e-commerce. We didn't even have social media.
Right.
So I had to get caught up with all of that.
Yes.
Now I'm reading about blockchain, and so I took the time to reset, enrich my life, and I thought I was actually going to start a tech company. I wanted to go into technology, and then Enrico, my
Beyonce.
partner, shows up.
Beyonce Enrico.
Yes.
Shout out to Enrico again.
He's got the
My-
best accent too, by the way.
Yes,
He does.
he does.
And he has
He's
this
very sexy.
calm-
He's
Like,
not.
he's-
He's
No,
not so
Taryn, I just want to let you know
calm.
you are smiling
seems
so
that
hard
way.
right now.
he seems so calm and
No,
cool.
no, he's very intense. He's
wow.
more intense than me.
We call that passion.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's such a beautiful story how he came back into my life. So, you know how I said that I was really quite disconnected
Yes.
with relationships, people, even myself, my own feelings, and when Enrico came back into my life, he showed me a whole other perspective of life. So here's a man who he's an architect, he's an inventor, industrial designer, ex Olympic level windsurfer. Okay. And the reason I'm mentioning all these things is it's important in the technology that we're building. And he comes to me after being inside a pool and being in a meditative state. And the message that in the universe came to him was, find Taryn. Because he was at a moment in his life where he's like, I don't know what to do next.
Right.
And he said, the vision of your face appeared. And so he jumps out of the pool and he goes back to Giuseppe, the original guy, right?
who introduced you, right?
And says, hey, do you have Taryn's number? And he's like, it's been 17 years. Of course I don't have her number,
Right.
but there's something called Facebook now. She's my friend on Facebook.
Right.
So I get this rather stocky message from Enrico, with the giant eyes, with the hearts, and, I think his first line was super honey. And I'm like, who is this stalker? I almost deleted it. And that was the beginning. And he said, I have a new technology I'd like to show you. And I said, hey, if it has something to do with shoes,
I'm in.
sure, I'll take a look at it.
Right.
And then he wanted me to come to Milan to meet with him. But I said, no way, because I already planned a trip to Paris to see my boyfriend in Paris at the time.
Oh,
And
this
I
story's
was-
getting hot.
Yeah.
Taryn was over here booed up. I said, I got to pencil you in.
And I was like, I am not ruining that weekend, right? So I sent someone that I knew that was from the industry to take a look at it. And he came back and said, yeah, it's interesting, but I don't know if it's possible to industrialize. Because it's one thing to have a prototype, but it's another to actually put it into production of numbers.
Right.
So Enrico says to me, well, I'll come and see you when I'm done with the first samples. I'm like, okay. And you know what? 3 months later, he calls me and says, okay, I'm coming in 3 days. I said, you didn't give me any notice. He said, yes, I did. I told you 3 months ago I was coming as soon as I was done.
And I'm done and I'm on my way.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's
so
how he
just-
works.
Yeah, so let's get to it.
I like him.
Right. Like, no more stalling. Well, let's get this done.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. So he arrives at my house, and the inspiration for this new technology is called Aliyah.
Aliyah.
Yes, and Ali means wings in Italian, but Aliyah also is an acronym for Active Lift in Alignment. And we'll talk about the technology in a little while because I first have to talk about the romance. So there was a butterfly on his studio window, which inspired the drawings of the initial technology. And when he arrived at my house, there's a butterfly etched on my fireplace, and he said,
This is it.
This is the place. And after we worked out our business deal, a butterfly flew across the garden, and he ran out. And actually, when I followed him, I realized it was two butterflies flying in a swirl. Yes, together. So that's why I feel like I'm so much more connected to signs in the universe, magic.
Right.
You know, we call it magic, but it's just the energy that is there. And I think that beautiful things
Yes.
can really come if you are tapped into this energy.
That's very true. You know what, Taryn? We'll be right back to talk about that beautiful energy.
The passion.
The passion.
The fire.
Yes. I miss Charlene.
Shoes.
There we go, shoes. I miss Charlene. We're on Dash Talk Radio, and you are listening to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. We'll be right back. And we're back. I miss Charlene from Lunch with the Finance Bunch, and we are talking to Taryn Rose. And Taryn, we got a lot more than we bargained for in talking to you. We got success, we've got doctor, we've got shoe company owner, successful sale of the shoe company, and then you found yourself and met the man of your dreams. And
Yes.
now, right now, you've started a new line of shoes. And
Yes.
so I want to know a little bit about the technology behind the shoe company that you started now, because I think that's very important for our listeners to know, is that not only when they buy these beautiful, sexy stilettos from your company, but I want them to know a little bit about the design of those shoes.
Of course. Enrico and I started a line called Enrico Cuini. It's named after him.
Shout out to Enrico again.
Yes. And I feel like this is a game changer because we are rethinking entirely how the foot works,
Okay.
as well as how shoes are built. So when I first started Taryn Rose, the thinking about the body was that it was like the Empire State Building. It's a high rise. So there's compression pressures
Right.
that are involved. And we have evolved now to look at the foot as being more like a dome, a superdome. So you're not going to support the superdome the same way as you would support an Empire State Building,
Right.
right? So this is what Enrico addressed, and that's why I said when I saw what he did, I said he's got it. He's addressing how the foot really works, the pressure, and not to get too technical, it's called tensegrity, which means that the tension forces keep the integrity of the structure.
Oh, wow.
It's a very engineering term, but that's how your foot works. So your foot has 3 arches, not just the inside arch, which is where everybody supports.
Right.
And in the time that I was sitting there drinking margaritas on the beach and dating young men, I also had time to to read up about the latest thought about foot biomechanics. And what we now understand is that the lateral arch, the outside arch, is the arch that begins the deterioration first. So from our wear and tear on hard surfaces, you start to collapse that lateral arch.
And that's the
And
one
then-
no one addresses.
And no one addresses that. And then there's the transverse arch, which goes across, and the stress and wear and tear goes across that arch. And so by the time you see a problem on the medial side, you're kind of far gone down that road.
Okay, so it's already
Right?
pretty much too late.
Yes,
too late,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. So what Aaliyah does is that it supports all 3 arches, and it's like a suspension bridge. So it's dynamic. So you don't want a hard piece of support in your shoes when you walk, because that'll block your natural movement.
Right.
You want something that will flex and move with the pressure. So I call it the smart technology,
Yes.
right? And so it helps you in your natural gait and just supports you through those motions. So you have less pressure, because the what we have a patent on is the ideal algorithm for decreasing the amount of pressure that's on the balls of your feet. Matthew, you don't wear heels, not that I know
my
of.
goodness.
But you know how the women out there will
Yes.
understand the balls of your feet start to burn.
They do.
Because in a normal high heel, only 20% of your feet is actually in contact with the shoes. So all of the pressure is concentrated over those 20%. And if we remember from high school physics, pressure is force divided by surface area.
Right.
So by increasing the surface area that is in contact with the shoe, with the foot, you have a lot less pressure concentrated.
You see that, Charles? Because she
So
doesn't
that's
mess
why-
around with the force at all.
I know.
I've seen her come into the house a million times with the force of her shoes in her hand.
In my hand, yeah, because it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
So now,
And then, so the other thing is that because we're blocking or, we're supporting all of the arches, it's more stable too.
Right.
So you can walk around on a skinny stiletto without feeling all
without
wobbly.
feeling like you're wobbly.
Yeah.
Because that's what really attracted me. I told you this in the break to you was the fact that you took command of that stage at USC. And I said, who is this little tiny lady with these beautiful shoes on? And I mean, she was strutting back and forth.
She was doing her runway walk.
Yes, and she was talking about she had been on those shoes for like 12 hours or something by the time she got to us. And she did not, I know that painful, I'm trying not to be in pain look.
Oh,
and
for
she
sure.
didn't have it, So Taryn, I want you to tell us, how do we find I know how to find your shoes because I've been on the website several times. I know the names of them. I'm buying that Deborah shoe. It is so beautiful. I have worked it out in
We're
my
going to
head.
have to start playing these clips every
And-
single time I buy a pair of sneakers so that I can throw
Anyway.
this bag at Char's face.
Anyway. So please tell us, how do we
Well,
on your shoes?
we are sold only online or through our events. We love to do events.
I've been to the event.
Yeah. So the website is Enrico Cuini, so ENRICOCUINI.com.
Yes.
I can't wait until we're in a rap song with the Queenies,
And you will be.
And if you go there and sign up, we'll notify when there are events.
Okay.
The reason we're going direct to consumer now, to go back to the financing side, is
Yes.
the world has changed since I started my first company. The department stores are not doing well. People are shopping online.
That's
100%.
Right.
And it's so much more convenient. It's fast.
Right.
Exactly. And from our side, we're like, well, why are we giving up all of the margins over to the department stores and taking all of the financial risk?
Right.
That's
Exactly.
So, but we also at the same time discovered that our customers love that Uber customer service. Like they
Yes.
love going out to their offices. And so we've identified that lawyers love us. They don't have time
Right.
to go out and shop.
Right.
So when we go into the offices, they are so appreciative.
They buy everything you have because they're
Yeah.
on their feet constantly and they
Exactly.
want to look beautiful.
They have to be dressed.
Right.
They're not, they can't be dressed down.
That's right.
And casual. So, so we have the convenience of online or the excellent service of in-person events where, Enrico and I are there to personally guide you.
At your trunk shows,
Yes,
which are
yes.
so upscale, so wonderful. The last one was in Beverly Hills at a beautiful hotel, and champagne flowing, and the shoes were beautiful, and you get this personal touch that is just wonderful.
And you know what I love too is that the women, they start networking.
Yeah, and we were selling shoes to each other, and we were networking
Yes.
and
Especially
meeting
over some
people.
champagne, I would be like, Taryn, come over here, please,
It was a
please.
wonderful event. It really was. Taryn, you are amazing. And your success has been ongoing, and it will continue ongoing. And whenever you have an event, please invite me. I would love to come.
I'm
Love
sure
to.
will. And I want to just send the message out there that success is so much more than the number of zeros in your bank account.
Yes.
Success is the numbers of XOs that you have in your life from all of the people that you get to connect with.
That's right.
I'll
That's
check
right.
you out, Char. You're
And
an XO.
you know what?
You're an XOXO.
Yeah.
I'm an XOXO. Thank you, Matthew. You're an XOXO too.
Thanks, boo.
Taryn, it's been really fun having you on the show, and we've learned so much. And I have to say, with all the success that you have acquired, you are such a humble, loving spirit, and I absolutely enjoyed meeting you. And I would love to continue to watch this new company that you have grow in the success that it's already achieving and bound to have more. And you're right, some rapper chick is going to have your shoes on and be talking about not only how sexy and beautiful they are, but how well she can walk in them.
Exactly.
So,
And we're going to make sure that Oprah does a cameo appearance.
yes.
And by the way, if you want lower heels, because Enrico Cuini only makes high heels, 3.5 inches and up
Right.
for the time being. I'm still the spokesperson and advisor to Taryn Rose. And
Yes.
so they have
Which is the
some great
company.
shoes, right?
Yeah.
So, I called Taryn Rose as like an SUV
Yes.
that, you can take to a lot of functions. Enrico Cuini's, they're the Ferrari on heels.
That's right. Thank you so much, Taryn, for stopping by Lunch with the Finance Bunch. We've enjoyed
My
having
pleasure.
you. This is Miss Charline. This is Lunch with the Finance Bunch, and you're listening to us on Dash Talk Radio.
Dash Talk Radio.
Dash Talk Radio. I am so happy we had you in our studio today. Taryn Rose, and your new company's name is?
Enrico Cuini.
Yes. This is your host, Miss Charline, and we'll see you next week.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.